The heartless woman had finally reached her breaking point. At that moment, nothing else mattered to her. Abandoning the torch she held, she pleaded for help from anyone who could rescue Bob and Kale. The villagers gathered around the emotional lady, their gazes filled with scorn as they directed their anger towards Scarlet and Ray. While they pitied the weeping woman, they resorted to trash-talking the young child, believing him to be cursed. Mob mentality is a hell of a drug. Though Scarlet could clearly hear their spiteful words, they paid no attention to her presence or her feelings. Meanwhile, inside the Talon household, the caring mother comforted Ray, assuring him that everything would be all right and that it was all in the past. She didn't want her son to blame himself for the events that had transpired. Gary, who had witnessed everything firsthand, shared a detailed account of the true events with her. Filled with admiration, she commended her boy for his remarkable handling of the situation in the forest. Having been out of action for an entire week, Scarlet was eager to bring her famished son something to eat. As she closed the door to the room, Ray finally caught his breath and collected his thoughts. Raising his gaze, he couldn't help but wonder about the mysterious creature that stood before him. It was an adorable draconic being, once again appearing with a magical prompt in its grasp. Ray pondered whether everyone possessed such creatures. The icon of the blessing of the dragon's eye caught his attention, compelling him to click on it. As he interacted with the icon, the room was engulfed in a fiery surge of energy, swiftly converging upon him. Eventually, the energy settled in one of his eyes, transforming it into something far from human. So we're starting with some dope eyes. I see you. With this altered eye, Ray gained the ability to see through the walls of the room, directly witnessing his mother busily preparing food for him in the kitchen. The system evaluated her condition, determining her to be fatigued, with her bodily functions running low. It issued a warning that she needed to rest soon. Man, she really is a contender for Mom of the Year. Ray was taken aback, as this was an ability he had possessed in the past. During his time as the Red Dragon, he had wielded a myriad of magical powers, making him a true legend. After failing the mage aptitude test, he had believed he would never again have the opportunity to employ such abilities. However, to his astonishment, here it was manifesting once more. Tears welled up in his eyes as he felt a profound sense of relief. This revelation was monumental, yet it appeared he could only access one ability at a time. Additionally, the mysterious prompt held another revelation, a depiction of an intermediate-grade beast crystal. Ray surmised that he had obtained it after vanquishing the intermediate-grade demonic wolf. Suddenly, he felt and smelled that something was terribly amiss. Thick black smoke permeated the air, accompanied by the harsh scent of burning. Oh no, bro. Someone is vaping nearby. It seemed that a fire was raging in parts of their house. Despite her fatigue, Scarlet rushed through Ray's room, determined to get him out of harm's way and away from the engulfing flames. As the inferno encroached upon their sanctuary, she shielded her son, conjuring a water spell to douse the blaze. Mom with the clutch waterbending save. Ray activated his blessing of the dragon's eye, peering through the window, fixating his gaze on the source of the fire. His eyes locked onto a familiar figure amidst the crowd of villagers. The system swiftly identified the person as carrying a flammable object, classifying her threat level as 0. It was her, the deranged woman, Bob, and Kale's unhinged mother. This lady really tried to burn the house of a fire dragon and a water mage. Outside the Talon family house, a group of villagers had gathered, their voices intertwining in a cacophony of idle chatter. They stood there, their arms crossed lazily, casting accusatory glances toward the burning structure. If you strained your ears, you could discern the whispers that brazenly assigned blame for the fire to the supposed cursed child, as if he were a malevolent force behind the flames. These neighbors are obnoxious, bro. Y'all have to move somewhere else. Emerging from the inferno, Scarlet and Ray stepped onto the scene, their faces etched with determination. Scarlet, still adorned in her apron, focused intently, delving into the depths of her mind as she prepared a potent spell. With a graceful gesture, she directed her magic toward the steadily consuming blaze. The incantation left her lips, accompanied by a resounding boom. Miraculously, the once raging fire dissipated as if it had never possessed an ounce of existence. Wiping the sweat from her forehead, Scarlet turned her attention to the villagers encircling them. Their malicious whispers persisted, refusing to be silenced. They adamantly clung to the notion that this fire, too, was a consequence of the curse. In their minds, if Ray remained in their midst, the entire village would be doomed to ruins. Undeterred by the whispers, Scarlet mustered a brave expression and moved towards her son, ensuring his well-being and soothing any fears that may have gripped him. But Ray, lost in his thoughts, wore a distant gaze. Reverting to his childlike nature, he reassured his mother that he was unharmed. He commended her for her swift action in extinguishing the fire, marveling at her composure amidst the chaos. Hand in hand, they returned to the shelter of their home. As they strolled, Rei once again succumbed to contemplation, his mind absorbed in weighty matters. He was acutely aware of the villagers' desires to witness their home reduced to cinders and to see both him and his mother perish in the flames. With an inferno of hatred and vengeance smoldering within his young eyes, Rei resolved to stop playing nice. These people sought their demise, and he would not play the role of the obedient victim any longer. Revenge was his sole objective, and time was of the essence. Number 1 on the death note should be the crazy lady. The following morning arrived, and it seemed as though the tragedy of the previous day had been erased from existence. The Talon house stood unscathed, displaying no remnants of the devastating fire. Meanwhile, Rei, returning to his routine, informed his mother that he would be heading out to train. Scarlet, in her motherly nature, advised caution and urged him not to overexert himself, mindful of his incomplete recovery. Rei stood at the familiar bridge where the fateful events had unfolded. Clutching his trusty sword and carrying 2 wooden buckets, he faced the entrance to the magic forest. Drawing his blade, he activated his dragon's eye, and fiery magic converged, granting him the sight of a dragon. Surveying the fringes of the mystical woodland, he could already discern numerous creatures lurking amidst the foliage. But this proved advantageous. Only beginner magical beasts inhabited this region, posing no threat he couldn't handle. In the heart of the day, beneath the comforting shade of towering trees, a fledgling magical creature reached out for a ripe, luscious fruit, relishing its succulent flavors in tranquility and serenity. Behind the unsuspecting beginner-level magical beast lurks a silent blade, patiently awaiting the perfect moment to strike and spill its blood. Rei swiftly thrusted his sword into the body of the magical beast, employing the dragon's eye to effortlessly hunt and refine his skills. Bro just wanted to munch on some apples, and Rei came in to ruin the vibes. As Rei gracefully descended to the ground, the lifeless body of the beast tumbled down from the towering trees. Surveying the scene below, it became evident that he had been tirelessly engaged in his work throughout the day, evident from the numerous magical beast corpses strewn across the ground, all hunted down by his expert blade. Is he on an MMORPG quest or something? Why is he grinding down everything in the beginner area? Gazing upon his impressive haul, he determined that the 20 casually hunted beasts would suffice for his purpose in visiting the forest. Out of nowhere, an adorable draconic creature materialized, alerting him to the acquisition of a beginner-grade beast crystal, prompting him to consider whether to absorb it. Surprisingly, he discovered he had obtained another one. As he observed the number of beast crystals in his possession, he concluded that acquiring them was entirely a matter of luck. Despite slaying 20 beginner magical beasts, he had only managed to secure 2 crystals. What remained unknown to him was the consequence of absorbing them as indicated by the notification. From the corner of his eye, he noticed the lone beast, a demonic wolf puppy, quietly sobbing. Emerging from the woods, it approached the remains of an adult demonic wolf that Rei had hunted down. Witnessing this sight, a conflicted expression crossed his face. Is that a hint of character development we are seeing? He approached the small pup with caution and informed it that it would now have to fend for itself. As he extended his hand to pet the creature, the pup instinctively evaded his touch and growled in response. Suddenly, the system notified him of a taming opportunity. He was prompted to decide whether to feed the black demon wolf pup a beast crystal or not. This notion of taming was entirely foreign to him. Hell yeah, we're getting a Pokemon system. Unaware of the consequences, he decided to give it a try. Opting for the yes option, the system initiated the taming process. A dark energy enveloped both the beast crystal and the black demon wolf pup. As the energy fused the crystal with the pup, a notification confirmed the successful taming of the black demon wolf pup. Rei celebrated the triumph of taming the beast, but to his surprise, the pup swiftly transformed into a stream of energy and entered his head, disappearing. He was caught off guard by the sudden assimilation of the creature into his own body after the taming process. Bro, his head is the Pokeball itself. Curious about potential side effects and the ability to summon the creature externally, he sought answers from the little draconic creature. It nodded its tiny head, assuring him that there were no adverse effects, and he could summon it at will. He vowed that if this did not prove true, he would dispose of the adorable creature as well. Another system alert materialized before him, notifying him that he had unlocked the second ability out of 1,000 in the system, thanks to the successful taming. It was a pleasant surprise to gain an ability through this interaction. However, there was no time for further delay. Ray had pressing matters to attend to. With his dragon's eye activated, he wondered if they were nearby. Carefully scouring and scanning the forest in the darkness of the night, he finally discovered what he had been seeking. Two figures concealed within a mountainous area came into view. Upon closer inspection, the two figures that the dragon's eye had identified appeared familiar to him. With a malevolent gleam in his eyes, he had finally found what he had been searching for. Oh no, is he about to do the most messed up prank possible known to man? As Ray slowly walked into a dark cavern, skulls and skeletons of different shapes and sizes could be seen littering the ground. He followed his dragon's eye and finally found the remains of the siblings, Bob and Kale. In just a week, the flesh, blood, and organs of the two had already been feasted upon by the beasts in the magic forest and the dark cavern. It looks like the magic beasts just had a feast. He coldly looked at the skeleton as he carefully took off their tattered clothes. After placing the clothes that the two wore on their final day into one of the buckets, he noticed that the other one had been filled to the brim with a crimson-red substance. Is he making spaghetti or something? Leaving the remains of Bob and Kale, Ray walked out of the dark cavern, never looking back. It was the dead of the night, and we were back in the Talon house. Ray was gently scolded by his mom for staying out so late and pushing himself even though he hadn't fully recovered yet. He responded as any other kid would. Starla was worried that her son was becoming a little bit more rebellious today. He had even gotten his clothes dirty as well. With a disinterested yawn, Ray stated that he still had to practice tomorrow, so he would get some sleep now. She was starting to stress out about the challenges of raising Ray. She informed him that Jake was coming back in just a couple of days, so they would be able to train together then. Ray got up in genuine excitement, kicking off the blanket in enthusiasm. He couldn't wait to show his pops the results of his tireless training. Look at this legendary dragon being so excited to show his dad that he can kick butt now. Seeing her son messing up the bed, Scarlet went into monster mom mode as she roared at her rebellious son to put his blanket on properly. Maybe it was because of the instinctual fear from his current human bloodline, but the mighty Ray obediently lay down on the bed as per his mom's orders. As the night grew deeper and the village became shrouded in silence, we returned to Ray's room at the Talon household. At first, he appeared to be just a simple boy sleeping, but he had been waiting for this moment all day. He opened his eyes with a serious expression and a solid determination. Bro is a man on a mission. He sneaked out of the house and into the storage room where he kept his things. The door menacingly creaked open as he spotted the buckets he had covered up before coming home. With the buckets in his hands, he quietly set out on his mission on this starry night. We arrived at Bob and Kale's house, where their insane mother resides. In the midst of the silence, a persistent sound of something or someone moving and thumping around could be faintly heard. He's going full-on horror movie on this lady. With a lantern in her hand, the lady got up from her sleep and slowly ventured outside her room to see what was happening and who was outside. With her signature angry voice, she called out to the person outside to stop knocking at such a late hour. Despite her firm call out, the thumping and knocking sound did not stop at all. The broken woman, grasping at straws, wondered if these were her sons, Bob and Kale, finally coming home. She was extremely hopeful as she opened the door to call out for her sons, asking the empty air if they had come back. What greeted her on the outside was the dead silence of the night and a familiar tattered piece of clothing in her yard. Examining it closely, she confirmed that these were undoubtedly Kale's clothes. She fell to her knees as she shivered at the sight of a clue to her boy's whereabouts. Ray's out here playing mind games against his enemies. I respect that. With renewed hope in her voice, she called out loudly to ask if Kale was really nearby. In front of her was a visible trail of footsteps the size of a child's shoe. Seeing this raised her hopes even more. Ray is devious for this stunt, man. Picking up the lantern once again, she ran and followed the footsteps on the ground as she screamed for Bob and Kale. She was coming to them, so they had to wait for her. The night was dark, and the only thing illuminating the magic forest was the bright light of the moon in the sky. Deep in the woods, the crazy lady finally arrived at the bridge leading into the outskirts of the magic forest. As she caught her breath, she started to notice that this place was too dark, even with a lantern in her hands. She knew she should not go any further as it would not be safe at all. Behind her, a familiar red-haired figure surveyed everything from a perch on a tree. With a sudden sound of something falling from high up, the lady felt a shiver down her spine as she quickly turned around to see where the noise came from. Shedding light on an area beyond the bridge, she saw the tattered clothes of her other son, Bob, draped over a tree branch and swaying in the wind. Someone should get this kid a prank show on TV. Ray quietly observed everything according to his plans while his dragon's eye was active. Countless small but savage magic beasts lurked beneath the darkness of the magic forest. The lady couldn't help but rush deep into the danger zone as soon as she saw Bob's clothes. she pleaded for her sons to stop running away from her and come home. While the lady screamed at the top of her lungs, desperate for any signs of her boys, Ray patiently observed while holding a rope tied to the bucket of crimson substance directly above his target. With a snap, he finally let go of the rope as the lady stepped into where he wanted her to be. The rope was knocked loose, and the crimson substance inside the bucket was unleashed onto the unsuspecting victim. The lady was splattered and covered by the crimson substance. This would be my least favorite type of shower. In a panic, she tried to look around to find who in the world had done this to her. To answer the question in her mind, Ray promptly jumped down from his hiding spot and finally faced the lady who had been nothing but a problem to him. Reverting to her contemptuous attitude, she pointed at Ray as if this was confirmation of all the rumors that they had propagated against him. With his inhuman dragon's eye activated, she berated him for being a bringer of misfortune after all. She demanded that he bring her children back. She had lost all reason as she started to charge forward with all her might while covered with a crimson substance that Ray had specially prepared. But before she could even take another step, she was halted in place by the sight behind the red-haired boy. Hungry eyes of countless magic beasts lurking in the foliage and trees looked at her as if she were the perfect midnight snack. Bro has that dog in him, and he got dogs outside too. From the front and the back, countless magical beasts surrounded her after being doused by the crimson substance that Ray had prepared. This crimson substance was the blood of the 20 beginner magic beasts that Ray had hunted down earlier. It was extremely effective at luring other monsters out. As the lady panicked, Ray slowly stepped back to let the feast happen. He did not take his eyes off her as he watched the lady who had tried to kill him multiple times and even had the audacity to include his mom in her attempts to end him get torn into bits by a legion of magic beasts. With a visceral scream, her blood spurted out onto the cold, hard ground under the bright light of the full moon. She kept on looking for her sons. She will finally meet them again. Ray is good at reuniting families. The sun has risen on the village once again as a new day begins. The villagers are back at it again with their whispering and gossiping as usual, but this time, they have a more serious tone than they usually do. It seems like the news has finally hit everyone, making them believe that the curse is real after all. They have transitioned from being scornful to being genuinely afraid of getting on the bad side of the Talon family after the grisly news of the demise of the irrational lady has become public. Speaking of the Talon family and curses, the villagers spotted Ray walking close to them, and the fear in their eyes is blatant. He just stared at them with blank eyes, and it was enough. The villagers greeted him good morning and praised him for being so hardworking and training again at such an early hour. Haters turn around as soon as they see you going up. And by going up, I mean murdering the crazy lady of the village. He walked away from the bumbling crowd as they heaved a sigh of relief. Ray finally noticed that there seemed to be new rumors floating around now. With a faint smile, he thinks that this new status quo is not too bad. He really likes it. He walked back home to the Talon household, and what greeted him was several combat horses that looked extremely tired and defeated. Seeing the sight of these cavalry horses caught his attention. He didn't even notice the expression of the animals, as this commotion in front of their house could only mean one thing. With his trusty sword in tow, he excitedly opened the door with a big smile on his face, asking if his father is home already. What he saw inside their house was an extremely heavy and downcast air of defeat and sadness. The armored soldiers looked tired and crushed, while his mother was kneeling beside the bed, sobbing uncontrollably. This does not look like a coming back party at all. From the moment he laid eyes on what was happening inside, he could already tell that something seriously bad had happened. Moving past and shoving the armored troops to the side, he ran forward as fast as he could to ask his mother what was wrong and what was going on. With her shaky voice, she informed her son that his dad is severely sick. Ray finally got closer and saw his lively, carefree, and always brightly smiling father emaciated, convulsing heavily. He was painted with the colors of death and decay all over his body. This is how I normally look like after reading manhwas without a wink of sleep. Starlet trembled and sobbed as she urged Ray to be strong. She tried to convince herself and her son that Jake would recover from this. He didn't waste a second as he activated the blessing of the dragon's eye right there and then. He surveyed his father's condition using his powerful eyes, and what he saw was demoralizing. His aura alone changed into a different color altogether, different from a normal human. He had never seen any living being with such a status before, even back in his days as a red dragon. Bro got the newest version of COVID. With a painful breath and a faint voice, Jake huffed and spoke sinisterly about how the shadows would kill everyone. He emphasized the shadows repeatedly with his limited speaking capacity. One of the armored soldiers explained that unfortunately, Jake had been infected with the plague of the shadows. He was attacked by a fearsome shadow beast while trying to protect a villager. These shadows and the plague of the shadows. No matter how hard Ray tried to recall, he had truly never seen anything like them before. When did they appear? And what happened to this world after he, as the legendary Red Dragon, died? The plot thickens. Starlet turned to the armored soldiers and sincerely thanked them for carrying her husband back home. The soldier felt even worse at the kindness of the kind woman. He deeply apologized for failing to protect Jake. At the side of the bed, Ray focused on tinkering with his system prompt. He thought that maybe, just maybe, he would be able to help his father recover with that spell. In his previous life as the legendary Red Dragon, one of the high-tier spells he used to know had the ability to dispel all forms of curses and black magic. With how mighty he was back then, his spells were no joke at all. But at the current moment, he does not know how he can unlock that spell again. If he were to bank on getting it as a reward for killing a magic beast, then he reckons it would probably need to be a high-ranking magic beast. He clenched his fist in frustration. As he is right now, he was just far too weak to even think about it. He faced his mom and sincerely asked if he would get much stronger if he could join the prestigious Avrian Knight Academy. Seeing her little boy ask such a determined question, Scarlet was rendered speechless. She looked her son directly in the eye as tears started to well up once again. She reassured Ray that he would become stronger than ever. Avrian Knight Academy was the place that his father, Jake, studied in the past. She is certain that her son will become an outstanding warrior, just like her husband is. With a newfound drive in his heart, Ray had finally made up his mind. He vowed to his mother that he would ace the test and become a student of the respected Avrian Knight Academy so that he can find a way to save his old man. Bro went from wanting to destroy humanity to doing whatever he can to save a single human. Seeing her boy take on such a huge burden with such youthful vigor, she could not help but well up in tears for the 10th time today. She grabbed and hugged him tightly as she expressed her true belief that if anyone can do it, it will be Ray. She wholeheartedly believes in her son. Meanwhile, in a faraway land, in a dark and menacing religious building, a massive and menacing dark crystal ball was situated in the middle of an encirclement of mysterious people draped in black robes and hoods. There's always going to be that one cult, man. They looked at the images inside the magical dark crystal ball and concluded that the prophecy has been foretold, and a great change shall befall this world they live in. Every single one of the figures stared intently at the image of a young boy with vibrant red hair as they wondered what exactly he will bring unto the world. Would it be redemption and prosperity to the people, or would it be calamity and destruction to everyone? The future is yet to be determined, and no one truly knows what will happen. An elderly man wearing a dark hood ordered the other members to notify the knights regarding the prophecy. They must find the boy with red hair as soon as they possibly can. Out of nowhere, a mysterious figure that the other members of the congregation address as the Master Elder walked through the halls. He simply declared that if the boy brings redemption, then they shall lead his way. But if he brings an unprecedented calamity, destruction without hesitation is the way to go. This old man thinks he's so tough. Colorful banners adorned the streets, and the festive mood could be felt in the air. The townspeople went out and gathered while patiently waiting for something to come. The chatter of excitement was infectious. Some people had even lined up before dawn to secure a good place with a good view of the main event. Finally, the people saw what they had been waiting for, and cheers and applause could be heard as they raised the red flags in their hands. The parade of armored knights and luxurious carriages was met with celebration and festivities, but what the commoners were looking forward to seeing were the heavily armored men in front of the majestic green banner. Every single townsfolk tried to catch a glimpse of these special people as they hailed the men to the highest degree. These guys have a lot of clout. One of the men was the blonde and handsome Sir Delbert sitting atop his trusty steed. The women couldn't help but swoon and fall deeply in love with his dashing looks. Bro has the silent night rays perfected. Everyone in town could only see the knights once a year, on the day of examinations. They savored every moment they could lay eyes on the elegant master knights. At the end of the parade, the knights and troops finally arrived at the center of the town. In front of the massive town hall stood the impressive town square. A singular magic puppet could be seen in the middle of the square as the three master knights stood before the young hopefuls who wanted to get a shot at entering the Avrian Knight Academy. With the drop of a sword, the cheers of the crowd were silenced as one of the master knights began to speak. He welcomed everyone for going out of their way to witness the knight examination. He introduced himself as Winford, a knight of the prestigious Avrian Knight Academy. He's giving off such a strong mentor vibe. Standing on his right was the handsome Sir Delbert, and to his left was the stalwart Sir Bernardo. He was sure that these people already knew them all too well. Today, they would be the ones acting as proctors of the examination. This assessment would be open to all children age 5 and above. The audience continued to cheer as the event was about to start. If these children wanted to join the Avrian Knight Academy, they had to show everyone what they were truly made of. Among the hopefuls trying their best to get into the academy, two familiar faces could be seen. Ray was wearing a hood covering his red hair with a strong glow emanating from his eyes, and Gary was up front with an optimistic smile on his face. Winford declared that the sword puppet was now in position, and the candidates could step up one by one as the first test officially started. Jake really pulled some serious strings to get one of these puppets for his son. Get well soon, man. The air of the town square was thick with anticipation as a boy with a heavy frame slowly walked towards the sword puppet with a wooden sword in his hand. In his mind, this was just a simple wooden puppet. He thought he had nothing to worry about as he could simply bulldoze and defeat it with pure strength. He readied his sword as the sword puppet assumed its proper stance. The parents of the kid cheered loudly for their son, standing out from the crowd with their enthusiastic support. With a smacking sound, the fat boy was sent flying into the air without even being able to land a single strike. He failed the challenge against the sword puppet in just a single second. The parents of the kid were shocked into silence and embarrassment as they witnessed their boy being wiped out. After getting destroyed by the puppet, you better get ready to be whooped by your parents. Sir Bernardo promptly declared the failure and called out to the next examinee. As Ray's father had said to him before, he just needed to defeat a level 1 wooden puppet. He evaluated the level of the puppet in the town square. It looked like it wouldn't move from its place, but the speed at which it defended and counterattacked was on par with an adult. With his sharp hearing, Ray happened to overhear the conversation of the knights at the town square. Sir Delbert was whispering about how it was a waste of time to come to this irrelevant town. Oh snap, Sir Delbert is a brat. I'm not even surprised. Sir Winford simply reasoned and reminded Sir Delbert that they must follow the orders of the elders. Even Ray was shocked that he could hear them whispering from such a huge distance. It seemed that after obtaining more beast crystals, totaling 36 now, his senses had become sharper than ever before. The dashing Sir Delbert insisted that knights should only come from noble blood. He couldn't see the point in wasting time testing these filthy and worthless commoners. Even Sir Winford found this sentiment from the blonde knight a little too much. They had been going on for far too many rounds, and not a single candidate had been successful. Just as the knight expressed his impatience, the sound of a wooden sword hitting the ground resonated throughout the town square. Sir Bernardo loudly declared that Gary had passed the knight examination. The villagers in the crowd cheered loudly, boasting that they had known all along that this kid was something else. Gary wiped the sweat off his brow from his hard work as his eyes scanned the area of the examinees. Once he found who he was looking for, he gave a thumbs up and a genuine bright smile. Bro looks like a commercial model or something. After observing Gary's actions at the forefront of the stage, Ray blushed in embarrassment as the kid was clearly staring and gesturing directly at him. Lil Bro converted Gary from a hater to a fanboy, becoming the center of attention in the entire town square. Veteran Sir Winford's interest was piqued by Ray, while Sir Delbert's expression darkened as soon as he saw a kid with red hair. As Ray removed his hood, revealing his red hair for everyone to see, the crowd erupted with malicious murmurs and whispers. They dubbed him as the infamous cursed child who brought nothing but misfortune, even to the point of affecting his own father. They protested that such a monster could not become a knight at all. Sir Bernardo beckoned Ray to prepare as the next candidate, informing him that he would have a minute before the test commenced. The disinterested Sir Delbert slowly approached from behind. He stated that he did not believe in prophecies at all. If the prophecy were true, it would mean that the red-haired kid would surely pass the test. He menacingly approached the sword puppet and tinkered with its settings from behind, catching the attention of Sir Bernardo. With a sinister look, he activated the level 3 trial of the sword puppet. As it was set into high gear, the puppet wasted no time and rushed towards its opponent. Both Sir Winford and Bernardo immediately noticed that there was something wrong with the puppet's configuration and shouted at the contender to watch out. As the puppet charged towards Ray, he maintained his composure, gripping his wooden sword with utmost confidence. The sound of the puppet's wooden foot echoed throughout the arena. It raised its sword, using as much power as it could muster in a single strike. Imagine going to an exam expecting an elementary school-level test and being bamboozled with a college level 1. Sir Winford knew that this was extremely dangerous. He swiftly drew his sword and shouted at Ray to move out of the way. A sable-sharp swing reverberated throughout the entire town square. The worry of the veteran knight turned into pure shock as he witnessed what had just happened. Even Sir Bernardo and Sir Delbert were stunned and rendered slack-jawed by the quick result of the examination. The audience that had been bad-mouthing Ray just a moment ago fell silent alongside Gary. With a wooden sound and an empty noise of a drop, The head of the sword puppet was decapitated as it landed on the ground. Ray knelt on one knee as the level 3 sword puppet fell in front of him. Sir Winford's assistance was not needed at all. Sir Bernardo was unsure of what to do after witnessing this incredible sight. Sir Winford sheathed his sword and ordered his colleague to announce the result. Giving a meaningful glance, he congratulated Ray and announced that he had passed the Avrian Knight Academy examination. With a sigh of relief, Ray walked out of the town square toward his proud mother and the excited Gary. Blondie is about to become the biggest ride or die friend of all time. Back at the Talon household, Ray was finally bidding farewell. Lil Bro is moving out of the house at the mature age of 5. He stood before his bedridden father, hoping that his voice could reach him. He informed his old man that he had passed the test, so he would be leaving the village together with the knights of the academy. He knew that Jake might not even be able to hear him right now, but he reassured his father that he would find a way to heal him. It was a promise he would work towards. Seeing and hearing his once lively father respond only in ghastly groans, a hint of sadness could be seen in Ray's eyes. Scarlet called out to him, wanting her son to take something on his new journey. It was a water-drop pendant that had been passed down in their family for generations. She hoped that this heirloom would bring her son good luck in the new chapter of his life. Holding the pendant, he expressed his determination before finally leaving, telling his mom to take care. With deep worry in her eyes, she reminded her boy to always take care of himself and remember that she would always be there if Ray ever felt troubled. He told his mother not to worry anymore, as he was a man now. With his backpack and sword in hand, the small steps of a young child grew farther and farther from his home and his mother. She couldn't help but shed a tear as she bid her only child farewell, unsure of how long it would be. At the outskirts of the city, the lush green foliage exuded beauty as the bright sky shone. Ray approached the Avrian Knight Academy delegation in the midst of preparing the carriages for their journey. With his arrival, everyone should be accounted for. With a welcoming smile, Sir Winford told him to come aboard, as the other boy was already waiting for him inside one of the carriages. Upon hearing that the other boy was already inside, Ray had an idea of who it might be. Lifting the entrance curtain of the carriage, his suspicions were proven correct. It was his village neighbor, Gary. Both of them blushed in embarrassment upon seeing each other and finding out that they were the only ones who had passed the examination. They sat at opposite ends of the small carriage, the extremely awkward atmosphere making both Ray and Gary fidget uncomfortably in their seats. These two are about to become a deadly duo in the future for sure. After traveling for a while, the sun set and night fell. The beauty of the woods they were traversing was undeniable. Bizarre magic creatures and stalwart trees bore witness to the proud delegation of the prestigious Avrian Knight Academy. In an attempt to break the awkward atmosphere and the silent tension, Gary cleared his throat to get Ray's attention. Out of nowhere, Gary clumsily tried to apologize to Ray, catching him off guard. Gary lowered his head and sincerely apologized for beating up Ray back then and saying a lot of mean and offensive things. Lil Bro is more mature and respectful than most adults that I know. He got out of his seat and earnestly bowed in regret as he asked Ray for forgiveness for being such an idiot back then. Ray reassured him that it was fine since he was just a clueless 5-year-old child. Besides, he had even saved him from the mob of villagers before. Ray considered the event forgotten. Gary pointed out that Ray spoke as if he weren't a 5-year-old boy himself. With an awkward laugh, he tried to change the subject by asking Gary how Amy was doing. He hadn't noticed her today at all. Gary was taken aback, thinking that his sister had already told Ray. It turned out that she was going to the Roland Magic Academy herself, Mage GF and Knight BF. He really is following his father's footsteps. This came as a surprise to Ray, as Amy had never even mentioned to him that she had the aptitude for magic. The forest was silent, except for the sound of the cavalry's hooves and the armored troops marching. Out of nowhere, the vanguard at the front of the caravan came to a halt as the knights promptly ordered everyone to stop. As soon as they halted, Gary and Ray felt that something was wrong. With the main character on board, you can't go from point A to point B without some BS happening. They peeked through the carriage curtain and saw a thick, dense fog covering the view. They had no clue what was going on. Sir Winford, riding atop his dark stallion, bellowed in front of him for something or someone unknown to come out. He made it known that they were knights of the Avrian Knight Academy, while asking the unidentified figure to identify themselves. A mysterious silhouette could be faintly seen as the dense fog started to unravel. Sir Winford was taken aback as he finally saw what was behind the mist. It was an adventurer wielding a bow and arrow. She desperately asked for help as she shivered vigorously. She introduced herself as Anne Woodwork from the Traceless Guild, classic ranged weapon user running as her guild mates get wiped. As soon as she got close to the party, and collapse in the arms of Sir Bernardo. It turns out that her team was attacked by the infamous shadow beasts. The dwarf, like Sir Bernardo, couldn't believe what he had just heard. He found it baffling that shadow beasts would appear in the area when they hadn't even come across a single magic beast on their way here since they departed. Sir Delbert puffed his chest arrogantly as he proposed that perhaps the beasts avoided them because they knew how strong the knights were. Since they were headed to Rennie, the veteran knight suggested that the exasperated adventurer should tag along with them on the way. She sincerely thanked Sir Winford for his good graces, as the town of Rennie would work well for her. Hearing this exchange, Gary was confused that they were going to Rennie instead of the Knight Academy. Sir Delbert smugly berated him for being stupid, arrogantly stating that there would be no use in sending a bunch of kids to the front line. Bro really can't go 1 second without being a condescending sob. Sir Winford patiently explained that the Avrian Knight Academy was situated at the border, making it susceptible to an attack at any moment. The new recruits needed to train for a decade in the town of Rennie until they grasped the basics of battle before continuing their studies at the prestigious Knight Academy. This was the first time Ray was hearing this crucial piece of information. 10 years is an incredibly short time for a dragon, but it is an incredibly long stretch for a normal human. With his father's condition worsening bit by bit, he was uncertain whether his pops could wait for such a long time. You need to speed-run this training, brother. With the adventurer in need taken care of, the caravan resumed their march onwards to Rennie. The forest remained misty as their field of vision continued to be limited. Gary was worried, thinking that the huntress was the only survivor in her party, and Ray's father was attacked by the mysterious shadow beasts as well, if he remembered correctly. Even those veteran knights were shocked when they heard that it was done by the shadow beasts. He was clueless and nervous about what they should do if they encountered those monsters. As if it were a premonition, a massive purple paw of a beast came into view directly in front of the caravan's way. Ray was one of the first people to sense that something was off as he felt the presence of something sinister. Sir Winford hastily ordered everyone to prepare themselves as something big was coming. The two knights by his side had already taken their positions as they faced forward. It was a monstrous purple bear with a malicious purple aura and a combat scar on its forehead. Surrounding the menacing monster was a group of smaller beasts with the same intensity of malice. The monstrosity stared directly at the caravan as it let out a haunting and deep groan. That's Mama Bear and her bloodthirsty cubs. The bear with a sinister hue turned its attention toward the caravan in front of it, and fresh blood poured from its sharp teeth and strong jaws. The knights in the vanguard identified the beast as the Drop Bear King, along with its pack of drop bears. Sir Bernardo prepared his axe, while Sir Delbert and Winford drew their blades. This was no ordinary Drop Bear King, it had become a shadow beast as well. The monster let out an ear-piercing roar as it ordered the Drop Bear pack to charge and attack the humans in front of them. Once arrogant, Delbert now held his sword with visible wariness, while the rest of the knights did their best to keep track of the rushing beasts. It seems like trouble was not exclusively concentrated at the front of the caravan. It was also brewing in the middle and everywhere else as the greenery started to rustle and drop bears started to come out of hiding. The armored troops failed to notice the sneaky and clever drop bears creeping up behind the battling knights. They must fire some of these soldiers after the battle. When Sir Bernardo finally realized that a beast was about to attack him from behind, he panicked, knowing he couldn't dodge in time. With a swift motion and a seamless sound, first blood was spilled on the battleground in the middle of the woods. The one who initiated the defense of the caravan was none other than Ray, wielding his trusty sword and saving the flustered Sir Bernardo from harm. Lil Bro is just addicted to making his superhero entrances. He praised the boy for reacting remarkably to the situation and reminded Gary and Ray, standing side by side with blades in their hands, to prioritize protecting themselves from now on. The knights at the forefront of the battle made quick work of the initial charge of the drop bears, cleaving every beast that dared enter their attack zone. However, they noticed that the big guy, the Drop Bear King itself, was not moving from its position. It seemed to be waiting for something. In the middle of the caravan, Gary struggled in his fight against the massive drop bears given his small frame. Aren't the adults supposed to protect these soon-to-be knights? They are useless as hell. As two of the clever beasts surrounded him, they managed to sneak in a claw strike at the back of the kid. It seemed like these shadow beasts were enjoying themselves too much. Ray jumped in and struck the shadow beast from behind, digging deep through its flesh. Once again, he made a clutch move and saved Gary from the claws of death. With bear blood all over his clothes and body, he reminded the kid to be extra careful. Ray's is out here chilling on the sidelines while waiting to steal kills. I respect that. These drop bears were much stronger than the demonic wolves they had encountered before. The Drop Bear King finally made its move, executing another resounding roar that conjured up a massive visible force of impactful energy. The area of effect was so strong that the armored troops were sent flying, while the knights braced themselves. Rei assessed that just from this roar alone, the creature was far too strong for them. With a menacing look in its eyes and fresh blood dripping from its mouth, the Drop Bear King raised its paw and slowly pointed forward. If this thing pointed at you with those eyes, just accept your fate. The veteran noticed something odd as the boss monster was just standing there in place and not attacking or engaging at all. They continued to cleave countless drop bears, but they could not determine what these things wanted from them. To everyone's surprise, the wild shadow beast started to speak in perfect, albeit sinister, human language. While pointing forward, it stated that the shadows would never be defeated and that they would take over the entire continent. What is bro waffling about right now? The knights and armored soldiers all stopped in their tracks, as this was the first time that they had heard a beast speaking in a human tongue. The Drop Bear King continued, pointing out that whoever he was indicating was destined to fail, and those around them were destined to die. He's talking like every online gamer ever. Shadow beasts are just salty trash talkers confirmed. Hearing the chilling speech of the shadow beast, Rei suddenly felt a sense of dread. The knights were utterly confused by what the monstrous thing in front of them was saying. They figured the beast was just trying to threaten all of them. After ending its bone-chilling speech, the Drop Bear King mustered all its strength in its legs and jumped right off the ground, leaving an impact crater. The bear just dropped his speech and then dipped. Absolute Giga Chad behavior. The knights remained clueless about the monster's intentions. They had appeared out of nowhere without personally engaging in combat. Sir Winford just heaved a sigh of relief as he reminded everyone to be thankful that the massive shadow beast had chosen not to fight. Otherwise, they would not have been able to leave the place unscathed. In the middle of the caravan, Rei was lost in thought, feeling that the monster had been speaking directly to him earlier. He did not even notice that he obtained another beast crystal. The veteran knight went to the side of the children and praised how well they had reacted in a time of distress. He was certain that these two rookies would become outstanding knights in the future. Rei inquired if beasts usually talked like the bizarre monster they had just faced. It seemed that was not the case at all. Shadow beasts almost never appeared within the border, and in his long career as a knight, this was the first time Sir Winford had encountered one that could talk. In the back of his mind, he thought Rei's reaction to this chain of events had been unusual. He was way too calm, and it was not how someone of his age should be reacting at all. That kid is older than you by like a million years. At a distance, the arrogant Sir Delbert was looking at Rei with a dark expression. He did not even bother to conceal the blatant disgust and contempt in his eyes. What is this jackass even mad about? Just hating for the sake of hating. Time flew by, and the journey went on without any further obstacles. On a bright sunny day, the caravan of knights and carriages finally arrived at Rennie Town. The armored troops of the town lined up to welcome the esteemed knights, leading them into the massive town gate. It was extremely strange that there seemed to be more guards posted than usual right from the entrance. The representative of Rennie Town troops greeted Sir Winford warmly. When asked why there were more guards posted than usual, they were informed that the Allure Kingdom had issued an Amber Alert, and every town and city was now under heavy guard. In the back, Anne Woodwork thanked the knights for escorting her back to the town. Sir Winford frowned upon receiving this news. An Amber Alert was no joke. It seemed that things had finally become serious. Gary was energetic and enthusiastic as everything felt new to him, while Rei remained calm as he had more pressing matters on his mind. Sir Winford looked back at Rei, realizing that the continent was on the verge of an impending crisis sooner or later. He wondered if this kid might just be the child of prophecy who could save everyone. In Rei's mind, he reaffirmed his promise to his old man. He vowed that he would become a knight. Looking up at the buildings of Rennie Town, he knew that everything had only just begun for him. He hoped that his father could hold on and wait for him. The years kept coming, and they didn't stop coming until a decade had passed in the renowned Rennie Town. Massive time skip alert. In a classroom, the instructor asked the students a simple question. While most knights do not have the ability to use magic, they have command over another ability. She asked if anyone could give her the answer, and Gary raised his hand. The teenage Gary had grown significantly in the past 10 years. He answered that the knight's ability is called Chi. After practicing Chi, they would be able to enhance their bodies and their senses. Some practitioners of Chi can even break through the limits of a human body for short periods of time. The instructor was pleased with the thorough explanation that Gary gave. It seemed like he was well prepared. She followed up with another question, asking why Chi could only be practiced after the age of 15. She called out to Rei to answer the question. Gary felt nervous as the seat beside him was empty. Rei was not in the classroom. Being the loyal friend that he is, Gary covered for Rei and excused him, saying that Ray had just gone to the restroom. That's a good friend right there. The instructor sighed and redirected the question to another student named Sylvia. Sylvia was a stunning girl with ashen white hair, wearing luxurious battle gear. She promptly and clearly answered that practicing chi could put the body under an extreme amount of duress, and the developing organs of a human finished developing somewhere after the age of 15. So, in turn, practicing at this age minimizes any damage that may be taken by their bodies. The instructor praised Sylvia for the detailed answer. She took her seat as her eyes wandered towards the empty chair beside Gary. Oh snap, he already got the school beauty's attention. Just as the instructor was saying, every student in the lecture hall was now going to take their first steps on their journey. She hoped that everyone could keep everything they had learned here in mind and use it for their future endeavors. Outside of Rennie Town itself, the forest was lush, and the waterfalls were pristine. In the middle of the woods stood a massive boar beast, eyeing down a magic wolf beast. A familiar but deeper voice ordered the wolf named Nor to attack the monster in front of them. Yep, that's a Pokemon battle if I'd ever seen one. Nor did not waste a single second and obeyed its master, opening its jaw and displaying its powerful sharp teeth. It rushed towards the boar beast. With a swift pivot, the three-eyed wolf beast used its sharp claws to bring down the hulking beast in a single blow. The boar crashed to the ground as Nor landed gracefully. From a distance, familiar red hair could be seen. The system notified him that he had obtained another beginner-grade beast crystal. Confirming the choice to absorb its essence, the system commenced its process, and he completely soaked up the power of the beast crystal. The ferocious Nor came running back to him as if it were an excited puppy demanding pets from its master. The kid obliged, showering the good boy with praise. You have to give him a treat, bro. That's like the #1 rule. After evaluating that this should be enough for today, Nor turned into its light form and was promptly absorbed by the kid. He was in a pinch, since if he went back any later, someone would totally flip out on him. As he was about to head back inside the town, the familiar sound of cavalry hooves could be heard coming out of the trade Chilrus Woods. The glorious banner of Avrian Knight Academy and the figure of a veteran knight leisurely got closer. The knight on the stallion was surprised that this red-haired kid would be the first one he met as soon as he came back. It was Sir Winford coming back to Rennie Town. He praised the kid for being able to slip past the heavy guards of the town. Sir Winford is 100% immortal. Of course, the kid in question was none other than the teenage Ray. They truly grow up so fast. He joined the knights en route towards the town as he caught up with Sir Winford. He had truly grown a lot taller since they last met. Meanwhile, the veteran knight had not changed at all in the past decade. He was even keeping his age a secret from everyone. He had heard the instructors say that Ray was notorious for slipping out of the town to hunt magical beasts on his own. And it looked like he had quite a haul today. With a smug smile, he reasoned that if the Amber Alert had not been called off recently, he would have had a harder time slipping out. Ray was out here in the woods because he enjoys moving around outside more than just sitting in a classroom. Sir Winford reminded him that he was lucky he did not go any further. If the guards on the outer line see him, they will not hold back at all. With a serious expression, Sir Winford has some important things to say to Ray. Before coming back to Rennie Town, it seems like the veteran knight stopped by Ray's house back in the village. This piece of update halted Ray in his tracks. He needed to hear this news. It seems like his father's condition has not worsened whatsoever since Scarlet has been taking good care of him. She also wanted to relay a message to her son to not worry so much about them in the village. Despite the complicated emotions he is feeling inside, Ray politely smiled and thanked the veteran knight for the update. Even if he tried to cover what he is feeling with a smile, his downcast eyes cannot lie at all. He has continued his training in this past decade. Whether it be rain or shine, he did not miss a single day. He has pushed his physical body to its limits, but he hasn't unlocked any new abilities. Despite his back-breaking efforts, nothing has changed at all, and he does not have a clue what to do and what his next move should be. He should have done 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every day. Sensing that the kid is carrying a heavy burden, Sir Winford firmly tapped him on the shoulder and guided him forward. For now, they just must move and get back into the town. He tightened his grip as he encouraged the kid that he must buck up from now on, since tomorrow is the day that he and the other rookies at Rennie Town are heading out to Avrian properly. The two walk closely together. The veteran knight cannot wait to see the other kids as well. Back at the Rennie Town entrance, a loud voice can be heard at the barracks of the town wall. There was a man screaming at the armored guard for acting clueless regarding what he was inquiring about. The guard reasoned that since the Amber Alert has been released already, they have no reason to stop anyone from going out of the town. and besides, there was no way a kid would go far anyway. The man with dark glasses was infuriated as he tried to remind the guard that the kid is special, and they need to know where he is at all times. While leisurely walking, the veteran knight along with Ray referred to the man as Alan. He turned around and greeted Sir Winford casually. His attitude turned back into being aggressive as soon as he saw Ray. This kid just keeps on sneaking out, no matter how many times Alan told him not to leave his line of sight. He keeps on playing hooky. We have lost count of how many times this has happened in just the past month. The frustrated Alan hit Ray for being such a pain in the ass. Winford tried to intervene and reason that it has been a month since the Amber Alert has been called off, so it should be alright. Ray hid behind the knight as he badmouthed Alan for being too strict. Anger wringed him even more. Besides, Ray is going to leave soon anyway. After that, Alan would be free as a bird from his babysitting duties, but as long as Ray is still his student, Alan would not let him skip class. Sir Winford was caught in the middle of this silly situation. After a few moments at the beautiful Rennie Town Square, the weather is impeccable. A thundering announcement notified all the students to gather at the square at once as an emergency meeting is being held. Ray, with a bump on his head from Alan's lessons, casually slipped through the crowd and found Gary. Seeing that he came back so quickly, Gary already knew that this kid was caught. The cold and beautiful Sylvia blushed as she tried to steal a glance behind her and towards Ray. The rustling of a majestic scroll can be heard all throughout the town square. The person on the front stage introduced himself as the Squire, Lancy. He is here to notify everyone that tomorrow, he will bring everyone to the Avrian Knight Academy. The entire journey will take them about 7 days. With a dead serious expression, he warned everyone that if none of them wants to get into any trouble, they should listen to his orders. Every student simultaneously uttered that they understand. An armored soldier asked Sir Winford if the path they will take has been decided yet, and the veteran knight simply answered that they will take on the swamp. This put the armored soldier into panic mode. He thinks that the swamp is far too difficult for the children to take on this early. With a confident smile, Sir Winford sees it differently. These children are bound to face a lot of challenges to become knights. And besides, they are not the only ones getting tested. Looking at the students in attendance, we see a buff and strong-looking guy with teary eyes. He has the same peculiarity as Ray, bright red hair. It does not stop there. An identical twin with the same color is in attendance as well. There's even a spirited young man with shaved red hair celebrating the next step on their journey to knighthood. It seems like Ray is not the only red-haired boy that is getting marked by those who believe in the prophecy. Ayo, the plot actually thickens. The next day arrived, and as soon as the sun rose at the entrance of Rennie Town, the carriages and the whole caravan itself, with the knights at the vanguard, finished setting up. Inside one of the carriages, Ray could be seen catching up on sleep as he drooled over himself. The red-haired kid named Kyle, who had a shaved head, asked the other kids on board why they hadn't used a teleportation device for convenience. They could have reached the destination directly with a single teleportation device, saving a lot of time in the process. A dark-haired kid named Dan mocked the rest of the group for being a bunch of idiots. He stated that, of course, there were no teleportation devices in the Avrian Knight Academy. Kyle argued that since they wanted to be on equal footing with the Roland Magic Academy, they should have a teleportation device like those mages do. Another voice interjected amidst their argument. The serene voice poked fun at them for not paying any attention in class. Sylvia, with a book in her hand, stated that since the Avrian Knight Academy was on the border, they not only needed to resist the invasion of foreign enemies but also had to fight against nether shadow beasts. If they set up a teleportation device there, once the academy was defeated, the enemies would be able to instantly teleport to all parts of the country. The two boys who were arguing earlier became embarrassed. Meanwhile, Sylvia blushed and still tried to take a sneak peek at the sleeping Ray. With the drooling red-haired kid sleeping on his shoulders, Gary turned to look and saw Sylvia glancing in their direction. She immediately turned her head away, but Gary spotted her. They had journeyed for a few hours, and the sun was about to set. They chose a nearby castle ruin to rest their weary bodies. As soon as the carriages arrived near the spot, the students were ordered to get off immediately and prepare for camping. Every student paired up and helped each other set up their tents to camp for the night. Gary whispered to Ray that he had spotted Sylvia constantly looking at him. Ray didn't think much of it, as he didn't believe there was anything special about him. To prove his point, Gary and Ray slowly turned their heads and looked at the girl. Sylvia was caught looking once again, and she blushed profusely. She was so embarrassed that she messed up the setup of their tent. Gary found this amusing, but Ray thought that Sylvia was only looking at him because of his weird red hair. However, Gary knew that this had been going on for a while now. Besides, Ray wasn't the only kid with red hair anymore. There were the twins, Sloth and Badger, brothers who were polar opposites when it came to their personality. There was also the buff and reliable Ian, a hard worker and a kind-hearted guy, a gentle giant with monstrous strength and a heart of gold. And there was the always lively Kyle, always upbeat and loud, a very sincere kid. Ray admitted that Gary had a good point regarding Sylvia's stares, but it didn't concern him at all. He didn't have the slightest interest in her, no matter how much Gary tried to tease him about how pretty she was. Behind the castle walls of the ruins, someone seemed to be sneaking away. It was the overly confident kid from the carriage, Dan. He even had someone called Monk with him. Monk was unsure whether they should be sneaking around like this, and after seeing the back of the castle walls, their noses were assaulted by a foul odor. The smell was so unbearable that it was worse than dead rats. The water emitted a nasty smoke, and they couldn't even see the full expanse of this sticky place. Taking a closer look, it seemed like this area was a swamp. Out of nowhere, Lancy the Squire appeared behind them with fury in his eyes. He confirmed that this was indeed a swamp, and if they didn't want their legs to get bitten off by the sharp worms because they were dozing off, he menacingly suggested that the two of them set up their tents and sleep immediately. The two cried in fear as they went back to the camp. The sun had completely set, and the only thing that could be heard was the crackling of the fire in the middle of the campsite. A single armored guard was stationed at the top of the ruined castle wall, surveying the area for any abnormalities. Below him, a quiet and nimble sound of something or someone sneaking around could be sensed. It was, of course, Ray. He had done some scouting during dinner time earlier. He was certain that he could slip away without having to deal with the guards in this area.